Hello, and welcome to the College Week Live presentation, the TOEFL Test, Your Passport to Study Abroad. My name is Michelle Hampton. I'm Associate Director for Global Client Relations here at the TOEFL program, and I'll be sharing with you today some ways that we can help you make sure that your performance on your next TOEFL test is the strongest to date, and to help you feel better prepared for the experience itself. So first we'll talk about what is the TOEFL test. The TOEFL test is an English language proficiency test designed to assess your ability to speak, read, write, and communicate effectively in English in an academic or classroom setting. Because of that, it is primarily used by colleges and universities around the world for admission into their programs that are taught in English. But you'll also find that the TOEFL test is sometimes used for students who are seeking a student visa, so it's used for immigration. It might be used for licensure if you're coming to be a nurse, for example, in an English-speaking country or an English-speaking area. Or it could be one of the requirements of documents that you're submitting for consideration when you apply for a scholarship or a fellowship or for academic placement into an institution. The TOEFL test advantage, really there are many to talk about, and we'll highlight some of them here together. You'll find that right now, 90% of the students who have taken the TOEFL test get into their first or second choice university. That's important because what that's underscoring is the fact that the TOEFL test is the most widely accepted English language proficiency test taken by students worldwide to study in an English language taught curriculum. So that includes students who are, for example, going to study engineering in Saudi Arabia, where the rest of their curriculum will be taught in the native language of the country, but the engineering courses are taught in English. It would also include students who are coming to study in Australia, Canada, New Zealand, the UK, or the US. Currently, it is also the most respected admissions English language proficiency test in the eyes of the admissions officers because they feel that it provides more accurate score information as to your ability and proficiency with the language. It is certainly the most taken English language proficiency test. More than 27 million people have taken the test to date. You'll also find that some other advantages are that it is the most fair and unbiased English language proficiency test. When we use our human raters to score your essays or to score your speaking section, it is done not just by one person. Instead, we use multiple people to score, or raters as we refer to them. And the scoring that is conducted is done separate and apart from the testing center. The reason for that is that we want to make sure that our raters, who happen to be ESL teachers who have taught usually in more than 2 countries worldwide and worked with non-native speakers, those folks who are scoring your essays or your speaking section are also then able to look at each result that they're reviewing as an anonymous person. So they won't have any biases in favor or against any test taker. They can be completely neutral and objective. You'll also find that, again, since our test, the TOEFL test, emphasizes communicative English, it really is about how well you use English, not just your ability to repeat back what you've been shown on the screen. The best way that we do that is by using integrated questions. And these are the kinds of questions that we encounter in our everyday interactions with each other and certainly in the classroom. You'll be asked to draw from multiple resources in order to come up with your answer. You may read a passage, then listen to a professor and a student talk about what you just read, and then you'll be asked questions on the test, and your responses will draw from both what you read and what you heard. So that's what we mean when we talk about integrated questions. As we look a little bit farther, many times students are curious to know, why do universities value the TOEFL test? Well, the fact that it has been a very strong measurement of English language proficiency for almost 50 years means that a great many people are familiar with it in the realm of academia. So it is a standard measure that they expect to see. It is objective and fair, as I mentioned before, but also the fact that it gives consistent and reliable and valid scores for test takers. That gives the admissions officers a great deal of comfort in knowing exactly what it is that they're seeing. The fact that the test design, the questions, reflect the kind of interactions that you'll have on your college campuses also means that the faculty and the administrators at the university can be confident that you are ready to handle those kinds of interactions and will do well. So it's all of this information that gives value to the TOEFL test. When we look at the actual test itself, many times students have questions about it. And I should mention that this particular slide and the next two slides really will address some of the more frequently asked questions that we receive from test takers. And in the time that we have together today, I'm going to hold off answering all your questions until the very end of the presentation because there's so much good and helpful information I want to share with you. And you'll also find that perhaps the answer that you're looking for is in the material that we'll cover together. So let's look at the test format for the TOEFL internet-based test. Right now, the vast majority of students taking the TOEFL test are taking this particular one. It measures 4 different skills: your ability to read, listen, speak, and write in English. So looking at the breakdown that we see here, in the reading section, a student will have to answer either 3 or 4, will have to read 3 or 4 different passages that we've drawn from actual first-year university level coursework. They will have to answer 12, 13, or 14 different questions per passage so that way we can make sure that they understood it and can communicate the themes and the importance of it. They will be allowed anywhere from 60 to 80 minutes testing time for that section. The reason why it varies that much is it depends on how many questions per section that test taker is given. So the reading section itself is scored from a low of 0 to a high of 30, as is each of the individual 4 sections of the test. When we look at the listening section, you'll find that a student might hear anywhere from 4 to 5 different lectures. Some of them will have classroom discussion, but then the student would have to answer 6 questions per lecture that they've listened to. Then they'll also have a section where they will hear either 2 or 3 different conversations and have to answer 5 questions for each of those conversations. Altogether, that makes up the listening section of the test. So in its entirety for the listening section, you will have anywhere from 60 minutes to 90 minutes to complete that section. And again, scored from a low of 0 to a high of 30. Each test taker is given a 10-minute break. Then the speaking section comes along, and it involves 2 tasks or prompts where we ask you to express an opinion. And you'll also have 4 speaking tasks or prompts where we will ask you to speak based on what you will have read and what you will have heard in this particular part of the test. So to complete the entire speaking section, we allow 20 minutes. In the writing section, which is the last of the 4 that we'll cover, there are 2 tasks or prompts. One is an integrated task, and that means that we're asking you to write your answers based on what is read in that particular prompt and what you will hear when you listen. In the case of this independent task, we are providing a topic and we want you to support your opinion on that. So we allow 50 minutes for the entire writing section, and again scored from 0 to 30. Now the way that the TOEFL test provides you score information, You receive a section score in each of the 4 sections that we talked about, and in order to calculate your total score that we also report, we add your individual performance in the reading, listening, speaking, and writing sections all together to come up with a total score somewhere between a low of 0 and a high of 120. Let's take a look at what it is that students frequently ask us. Here are some of those questions. The first is, how do they register for the TOEFL test? That's a very good question, and the nice thing is that we provide you 3 different ways to do that. You can register online by going to the TOEFLGoAnywhere.org website, which I will show you a little bit later. You can call us. That information is available online with the phone number. And in some cases, in some parts of the world, we even have regional registration centers that can take your call and work with you directly in your own time zone. Or you can write to us and mail in your paper registration for the TOEFL IBT test. How long is the test? You have about 4 hours to complete the test from start to finish. If you finish early or under the 4-hour time frame, you are permitted to leave the test center. We do not ask you to stay once you have completed the test. What do you need to bring on test day? Now, this is very important. You must have valid, acceptable identification documentation with you. The name on that registration that you fill out online to take the TOEFL test must be the same name and appear in exactly the same way as it does on your identification document that you will bring to the test center on test day. That's how we can make sure that you are who you say you are, and also make sure that your scores are linked with you as an individual. If a student, for some reason, does not have the identification documentation on test day when they show up, or if there is a discrepancy and the names don't match between the registration document and what is in your online profile, it is possible and very likely that you will be turned away or not permitted to test that day. So you want to make very sure that your name matches what is written on your registration document. You should also bring with you your registration confirmation so that way you can be sure you're at the correct test center for the correct test date and test time. Now, as we move forward, some additional questions that come to us often are, when will the scores be available? TOEFL IBT test scores are usually available in 10 days, 10 calendar days after taking the test. You are actually sent an email notification to the email address you put in your online registration profile when we have posted your scores or when they're available to be seen. We do that because we know you're very busy people and you may not realize that 10 days have passed. So we remind you when your scores are available, and then you're able to go into that same registration profile where you placed your initial order for your TOEFL test to see your scores. What is the passing score for the TOEFL test? Well, frankly, there is no passing score, and it really varies by university or program that's requesting the scores that you take on the TOEFL test. An institution will base their decision on how much support they can offer their non-native speakers of English when they arrive on campus. A school that does not offer any additional help to its students on campus might require a higher TOEFL total score then, so that way those students are much more proficient and can function well and be successful without additional help. Some colleges or universities will offer on-campus assistance to reinforce your English language skills and therefore can accept a lower TOEFL score for entrance. The key is to check with the university to which you are applying, because as I said, each institution can pick or determine its own score requirement. We do not have any ability to influence that, nor do we have any of that information at our disposal. you will find as we move forward now, we're going to take a look at what an official TOEFL IBT score report looks like when you ask us at the TOEFL program to send your scores to a university. It includes the same information that you're putting in your registration profile when you create your order or your profile to take the test. It includes your name, your address, permanent home address that you list at that time. It includes your date of birth, the actual test date that you will take the test. It includes the test center identification number, the test center country location, and also it will include some additional security information, such as your passport ID number, the last 4 digits, the country that issued that passport, or perhaps it might even be information regarding the other government issued document you used for your identification purposes. If you notice on the side there, there's a box that indicates ID photo here. That's the picture we take of you on test day when you show up at the test center. That is associated to your score report. You'll also see right under that is a box that indicates the scores that you earned on the day that you took the test. So each single time you take the test, there's a separate report like this generated. So when you ask us to send your scores to a university, it's based on the test date that you are sending the scores. So if you took the test twice and you want to send the scores from the first test date, that would be the only information on this report that the university would see. Now let's take a look at the score report that you have access to as the test taker. This is the examinee or test taker copy of the TOEFL IBT score report. You'll notice the background of your report is green. The one for the university was purple. Your report also contains all the same identification information that you provided in your registration profile. It also contains your picture as well as your scores from the test that you took. The most important distinction between your report and the one received at the universities is that your report also gives you performance feedback on the scores that you earned by the test section. So for example, you will get feedback on your performance in the reading section. It might tell you that you scored very well, but you might want to improve in certain areas. Or it might let you know that you have shown certain abilities by earning a score of that level. And it does go through all 4 section scores and section types. So you will see on page 2 of the test, for example, that of your score report, I should say, that it includes the results or the performance review for you for the speaking section and the writing section. Now let's move a little bit forward. And again, for students who are solely looking at their scores online, you will just see this information. You only get that paper copy, that green copy, if you ask us to send it to you. You will not automatically be sent a paper copy of your scores. Now, this is the TOEFL Go Anywhere website. As I mentioned before, this is the website where students will be able to register online, view their scores, ask us to send their scores to a university, but you'll see it also contains some additional information here. You'll be able to look up the school of your choice on the institutional search. You'll also be able to look at the different test preparation materials and resources we've made available for you to be as successful as possible when you take the test. And we also have video tips, and those encompass both tips to improve your ability in English overall, but also your ability to do well on the TOEFL test. So now let's take a look at each of these additional features of the TOEFLGoAnywhere.org website. One of the first things you'll see here is you have the ability to go to the www.ets.org/TOEFL / website to be able to look up test centers and dates. And if you go to the TOEFLGoAnywhere.org page, it will direct you to this same link. So you would be able to enter the country where you wish to take the test. And by the way, that country does not have to be the one you live in right now. Perhaps you're on vacation with your family in Greece and you want to test there. Certainly you could select that country, look to find the nearest testing location based on where you will be staying, and then register to test there. Or perhaps you're a student who is studying in another country currently. Let's say you're in Switzerland and you want to take the test there. You can do so. So you're not limited to only testing where your permanent residence is. But this lets you look up all the possible locations where the TOEFL test is given. And the test dates that you will see will be test dates that are still accepting registrations. So they are available seats, and that's important too. You want to make sure that you're picking a test date that is early enough to meet your admission deadline and also let you get your scores within 10 days of the results. Just as if you ask us to send the scores for you to a university, it will go out in 10 days, but then depending on where in the world the university is, you'll have to add some additional time to that to make sure that that shipment gets to them. Now, the next feature that we're going to look at will be the fact that, as I mentioned before, you will create a TOEFL IBT profile online. You can make this profile whether you're ready to pick a test date or not. It just establishes that you are in our system, you have a profile and a place where we can enter your scores when you take the test. So it's just a baseline. We do ask you to include, obviously, certain information. Your name and your password will be ones that you will pick to create that particular profile. They're unique to you, and we do provide, though, a link in case you forget either your username or your password, because since TOEFL scores are valid for 2 years from the date that you take the test, it is possible you might not remember the username that you picked a year ago or the password that you selected 6 weeks ago. Now, the next website that we're going to look at, or the next aspect of the TOEFL Go Anywhere website, is our TOEFL Destination Search. This allows you to look up colleges or universities around the world who have a 4-digit TOEFL recipient code number. Schools that have said, we want to receive TOEFL scores from our applicants. It is that 4-digit number for that school that you will put in your order to send your scores to that school. So if, for example, you know you want to study at the London School of Economics, you would enter that information. Either the name you could search by, as in London School of Economics, or you could search by location, such as London. And all the schools within London that accept TOEFL scores and have a code number would appear on that list. And then you can pick that one that appeals to you and find out a little bit more information. In fact, some of the information that we actually have on that website would be the particular university's website, so you can always get access to current information directly from them. It will include the name of the institution. If that institution has published a TOEFL score minimum requirement for either undergraduate or graduate studies, for the TOEFL IBT or the TOEFL PBT, that information would be there as well. So it is helpful to have, but you must always ultimately go to the school's website just to make sure that the information on our page is current and up to date. Now, for the students out there who aren't quite sure where they can find the major they're looking for, what colleges or universities offer it, or perhaps they know that they want a very popular program such as biology, but they know they want to be in a particular part of the world, such as Australia or Toronto, Canada. If you find that you are missing some information, a great way to fill in those gaps would be to participate for free in the TOEFL Search service. In participating in this program, you will list all of the things that you're looking for in a college or university: the size, the location, where in the world you want to be, the major or field of study that you're seeking, what level of study you are approaching. Are you looking to get your undergraduate degree, your postgraduate degree? And all of that information then will be shared with colleges and universities around the world. Anytime there's a match so far as what they're looking for in a test taker, the things that you've cited as what you need in an institution, and your score performance falls within the range that they're looking for, it's considered a match. And they will therefore then send you an email letting you know about their school and why it would be a good choice for you. So that's important. Again, this is a service that is free for you, and it again allows you to learn about different programs around the world that offer the field of study that you're looking for and would gladly welcome you as a future student on their campus. When you go to the next slide here, you'll also see that now we're starting to shift and focus our attention on the ways in which we can support or help you improve or prepare for the test itself as you get nearer to test day, and also perhaps to help you improve your English skills overall. So the first page that we're looking at here talks about the fact that TOEFL maintains different Facebook pages around the world that you can access. It's wonderful because it allows us to be able to communicate with you and share with you information about local events that might be going on in your community or within your traveling distance. It also allows us to make you aware of test taking or skill building tips to improve your performance in English, different study videos that can help you, again, focus your energy in areas where you need improvement. And it also includes access to the test prep materials, and that would be the free sample questions that we offer that cover all 4 sections of the test. Now, as you can see here, for the students who are in China, they will find that they may not be able to access Facebook, but we have thought about them and created a page on Sina Weibo. So that gives you the opportunity to reach out and talk to fellow future test takers or past test takers. And currently we have over 66,000 participants and followers on our Sina Weibo page. So it certainly could be worthwhile. Here is the special link just for that access. So definitely take advantage of it. Sometimes you can get some of the best tips from fellow test takers. We also maintain a TOEFL TV channel on YouTube for those of you around the world who are able to access it. It allows us a great opportunity and a great forum to post our videos that you can access on demand at any time that's convenient for you, to help you learn what to expect not only on test day, but how to prepare, what the test is like in certain sections, and different resources that can really help you feel you're ready to do your best on the test. Let's take a look at some of those right now. These are some of those videos that I talked about. So there's a TOEFL Resources video, which is a good general overview of what to expect from the TOEFL test, how it's designed, what you can do with the scores, how to register, and what our resources are for practicing or preparing for the test. We also have a video entitled Inside the TOEFL Test, Speaking and Writing. We know for many of our test takers, these 2 areas are some of the toughest skills for them to master. So we've created 5 different videos that focus in depth on these 2 sections, so that way you not only know what to expect when you sit for the test, but also ways in which you can improve your performance in those sections. Some additional videos that we offer cover welcome to the TOEFL IBT test site. That lets you know what it will be like on test day when you arrive at your test center, how you'll be able to secure your belongings separate and apart from the testing room, what the actual check-in procedure is like, how you'll be seated before the monitor on test day, etc. When we look at the TOEFL test, your passport to the world, it really is our way to help you understand how TOEFL scores are accepted worldwide for entrance, for university study, for licensure, for immigration, and also for general placement. We talk about the TOEFL Test Advantage, which is the chance to hear directly from university admissions officers about why they do prefer scores from the TOEFL test when evaluating the English language proficiency of applicants to their institution. Now, we also know some of our students, as I mentioned before, may not have access to YouTube, but all of these same videos can be accessed at the link that you see here. So for those of you without access to YouTube, definitely go to our TOEFL video library on our website. Now, some additional test prep that we offer is free and to any test taker or anyone in general who wants to work on their English language skills. The first is the TOEFL Test Sampler. When you are ready to register for a TOEFL test, you will be sent access to the TOEFL Test Sampler automatically upon registration. It does give you sample questions for each of the 4 sections of the test so that you can get a good look at what to expect there. In the case of the sample questions, we offer those for anyone. You actually don't have to create a profile in order to access these. Sometimes students are just curious. So you can either download them directly from the link that you see here, or you can print them. Sometimes students want to have that as a reference or use it as they quiz each other in preparation. We also offer a TOEFL test prep planner that we'll talk about in a minute, and the quick prep. Those last 2 items, the test prep planner and the quick prep, sometimes it depends on how much time you have to prepare before your test day to help you decide which one of these to use. So let's look and see what the difference is between the 2. In the case of the TOEFL Test Prep Planner, you'll find that it is designed to be, in total, an 8-week preparation plan. Now, some students are very good about planning ahead and allowing 8 weeks before they take the test so that they can practice all 4 section skills that are part of the TOEFL Planner. Some students know that they only have a weakness in a certain area of the 4 skills, not all 4. So perhaps they want to focus and give maybe 2 weeks on their writing skills and practice those modules that look at those particular exercises. That's great. Then you can do that. You can compartmentalize it. You can focus on all 4 skills or just certain skills. All of that obviously will dictate the length of time that you spend working on it. Some of our ESL teachers around the world have found this particular book, the TOEFL Prep Planner, a useful tool in the classroom. So it is possible that your ESL teacher might be using this with you in class exercises, and that would be fine. Either is available. The important thing is that it does give you a sense of what each section of the test is like, how to understand our scoring that we use in evaluating those sections, and then also it gives you examples of what you can consider to be worthy of certain scores on the test, and that's something that many students find helpful. That other product I mentioned, the TOEFL IBT Quick Prep, sometimes students don't have a full 8 weeks between when they register and when they're going to take the test. And sometimes students know that there's just a particular skill that they want to focus on. So we created this as a way to meet a short-term preparation time frame. It is a free practice tool, and it does give you a sense of what to experience because we're drawing from test questions that were used on past TOEFL IBT tests. So they were very real and very valid questions, but they're no longer in circulation, and you would not find them on your test when you go on test day. You'll also find that 2 of the volumes, volume 3 and 4, have the audio file, so you can actually hear what the prompts were that the students have to choose from to respond and make their answers. Just as the TOEFL Prep Planner sometimes is used by ESL teachers as a way to have a classroom exercise to improve your English skills, the TOEFL IBT Quick Prep can be used in the same way. So you might have a chance to access this in your classroom, but both products can be used by you at home on your own. So definitely consider those two resources. Some additional ones that you'll find that we offer actually are available for sale or for purchase. So for those items, we have here different guidebooks, and I'll talk about those in a minute, a practice online, and the prep course. So first, let's look at the official guide to the TOEFL IBT test. This is the official guide to the TOEFL test. We use McGraw-Hill to publish our book, and you'll be able to find in using this that it comes with 3 full-length tests. So long as you get the big hard copy book, you'll also get the CD-ROM, which has the audio prompts. Some students prefer to use the electronic version of this particular guidebook or the e-book so that they can access it on their Mac or any Mac products, or on a PC or a Windows phone or an Android. So all of that is available. And you'll find that we also are aware that some students find it more easy to use when they participate in our bilingual publication editions. So you'll find that we offer it in simplified Chinese, Indonesian, Japanese, Korean, and French. So hopefully for all of our students who are seeking the opportunity to practice and prepare, one of these versions and one of these formats will be helpful. Another guide that we publish with McGraw-Hill's help is the official TOEFL IBT test with audio. The difference here is that this book contains only 5 past TOEFL tests. So it really is focusing your energies to practice by taking the test more than once to see and watch your improvement that way. This particular guidebook, though, is only available as a hardcover book and contains a CD-ROM with the audio passages that you'll need for practice purposes. This book is also available in either simplified Chinese or Korean, as well as English. Now, another prompt that we offer, another test prep product for sale that we have, is the TOEFL Practice Online. The benefit of this is it is one single practice test, but we do offer 6 different versions of practice tests to the public every year for sale. But it lets you focus. So if you're a student who really has just a few days to prepare before your test, you should participate and buy the TOEFL Practice Online. Take it to get a sense of what to expect on test day, and also to see if your previous efforts to prepare have shown an improvement. Some students will take the entire TOEFL Practice Online, covering all 4 skills. Other students will take just the speaking and writing, or they will take just the reading and listening. So you have a real advantage there of being able to choose how you want to use this particular tool. And then we also offer the TOEFL IBT Online Prep course. Now this really is designed first and foremost for a classroom setting, but it's also very helpful for a student who has a great deal of time to prepare. As you can see, we spread the lessons in this particular tool out over 80 hours of time. So for a student who is in, let's say, a half a year long course, this would be great. There are some students who try and condense it a little bit shorter than that, but really to make the best benefit of this tool is to utilize the whole 80 hours. There are post tests in each of the sections to evaluate your progress, because you will have taken a pre-test in each section to get a sense of just how much you know. You'll review the section and then take that post-test. So it does let you get a sense of watching your progress over time. It really is a great resource, but again, ideally it's for students who have quite a bit of time. before they take the actual test. Now, some of the last few things that we offer, I want to highlight here, would be the fact that students have often found with all of the different support that we offer in our test prep products that there are certain combinations that have been very helpful for them to do well. And based on that feedback, we grouped those most popular products together to give you a price break. So these are only on the products that we have for sale. But as you can see here in US dollars, you have the opportunity to save quite a bit of money if you want to combine the resources that you get from us to prepare for your next TOEFL test. One last thing I'd like to share with you is the fact that TOEFL has a mission to make access to higher education affordable and available to students. So one way in which we remove some of the barriers that some candidates might find is to offer the TOEFL Scholarship program. For us, we've been offering it since 2010, I should say, and it's for students who reside in China, India, Korea, Japan, or Taiwan. Students can use these scholarships for either undergraduate study or graduate study. The monies that are earned through the scholarship go directly to the university, and it does help towards your tuition costs. But it is a wonderful program that allows students to not only showcase their TOEFL performance, but how they've excelled in the classroom in the years prior to university study, academically, leadership skills that they demonstrated amongst their peers, and ways in which they contribute to the overall campus or community life in their extracurricular activities. So it really is our way to recognize well-rounded students who are seeking the opportunity to go on to university or graduate school study. You can use these scholarships at any university offering courses in the US, UK, Australia, and New Zealand, as well as perhaps in some programs worldwide that are being taught in English. Now, I know that was a great deal of information and you have many questions, as I can see, so I will be happy to take your questions at this time because we want you to realize that the TOEFL test does help you make your transition to university or graduate school easier and use the resources that we provide. So let's look at some of those questions. Let's see here. The first one is, what is the best strategy for scoring well on the TOEFL IBT? Well, the best strategy possible is to take advantage of some of the test prep materials that we mentioned here, whether it's the items for free, such as the TOEFL Prep Planner or the TOEFL online prep course, but it gives you the opportunity to build those English language skills. You should try to read texts or literature or materials in English whenever you have a chance. You should also or might want to consider joining some of our online discussion groups, whether it's through YouTube or Sina Weibo or Facebook, so that way you can interact with peers and practice your English speaking skills and listening, because those are the best ways to improve your performance. Here's another question. I have 2 semesters, roughly 10 months of education in a community college in the US. Will I still need to take a TOEFL? Well, actually, that's a decision that we do not make, but rather the university to which you want to transfer will make that decision. Again, whatever they decide will be based on your performance at the community college, whether you were receiving some sort of English language assistance there, and what that other university can offer. Do they have English language assistance for non-native speakers, or do they not have any options like that? Because if they don't offer any assistance, they may then be happy with a very strong performance on your part at the community college level as a way to validate you will be able to be quite proficient on their campus. But the decision rests in the hands of that university to which you're transferring, and that's who you should contact for an answer to that question. All right, let's see here. I have a few more. How many days prior to the test should we register to get a confirmed seat? Now, I recommend that certainly you keep in mind when your admission deadline is. So let's say if your deadline is March 12th, then you would want to make sure your scores reach the university in plenty of time, maybe the week before. So that would have been March 5th. In order to get your scores to a university, you need to take the test at least 10 days before that. So I would recommend then that that would mean at least on April 20th, you were looking at taking the test that day or a little earlier. There's nothing wrong with being a little early in selecting your test date. You just want to make sure that you are not late or could run up against the deadline and miss the entrance time or application time. Also keep in mind that scores that have to be mailed to colleges or universities outside the U.S. will take more time. The scores will not get there necessarily overnight. And you want to make sure that you're allowing enough time for the scores to reach the institution. So I would recommend that you register to take the TOEFL test a minimum of 4 weeks in advance, if you can. For students who have learning disabilities and may need additional support from us in order to take the test, I would recommend that you allow at least 8 weeks time, because we want to make sure that we're going to find a testing center for you that can provide you the kind of support services you need to perform well on the TOEFL test. Let's see here. I have another question. Just want to move my cursor here to get to it. Okay. I believe this question was regarding the test prep that we were talking about. We were talking about the free test prep. The free test prep is available to anyone. You do not have to register for admission first, or register to take the test, I'm sorry, first. You can actually access all of that free of charge at any time, even today. If it is a case where you know that you have a test date coming up and you are going to create an online registration profile, the free test prep products will always be free. The products that we offer for sale or for purchase, like that official guide, the official test book with 5 tests in it, those will always be available for purchase whether you are registered for the test or not. And yes, each of those have separate charges, which you can see on our website. If you go to the TOEFLGoAnywhere.org website, you'll actually see the products, the same images that I showed you, and then you'll also see what the cost is in US dollars. So hopefully that will help you out. Let's see here. I have a few more that have come in. Does following a format for writing or speaking increase chances of getting a higher score? I'm not quite sure what you mean by following a format, but I can tell you that you want to be able to read the material that's in front of you, listen to the conversations that you'll hear in the headsets, and provide your answers accordingly. Since each test taker is going to be exposed to different questions, there really isn't a format per se that's applicable in every case. You do want to listen to what's being asked of you and make sure your answer is very focused and specific to the question you receive. I hope that helps. If not, certainly write into us again. If by chance you send the question and our web seminar has already ended, you can direct any questions you have to our test taker website, our email address, I should say, and that would be TOEFL@ets.org. Write to TOEFL@ets.org with any questions you have that either I have not yet answered or perhaps you have more questions. They'll be happy to help you. But let's see, I think I have time for a few more. Let's see, okay. Does writing a simple essay mean getting a low score? Not necessarily. In the case of the essays, we want to make sure that you are understandable in the words that you're using, that you address what has been asked of you, and that your answer is logical and complete in and of itself. It does not mean that your essay has to be very, very long to do that. Some students are able to provide that information in a shorter format. So we're not trying to penalize you or assess you on the number of words that you use, but instead we want to make sure that what you write makes sense, answers the question or performs the task that we ask you to do, and that the words that you use in the English language are valid and accurate. Okay. Here's another question. In taking the writing section of the test, it is not a handwritten test, correct? We have to type all our answers, correct? Yes. Throughout the test, you'll be taking it on a computer, the internet-based test, and you will use the keyboard to write your essay answers or the answers in the writing section. So you are correct. You will be typing all your answers on the keyboard. Okay. Here's another one. What is the minimum score required? Again, every university will set its own score requirement. So there is no single answer that applies to everyone. It is always best to contact the university or, if possible, the specific program you're looking at to see what their score requirements are. Obviously, if you're looking at a degree in a field that is very much speaking oriented, such as a teacher or a doctor or anyone in a medical profession, it is very important that you be able to speak clearly and communicate effectively. So a university program in those academic areas might even say, we'd like your speaking score to be no lower than X. And therefore, that's why it's important to reach out to the program that you're seeking admission to and make sure that you have current, accurate information on what they're looking for in a TOEFL score submitted by an applicant. Okay. In this case, I got further clarification from that writer. They were saying specifically, if I'm seeking a degree of master's in science, what would be the minimum score required? Again, it really does depend on the university program or the graduate program you're applying to. There's a great deal of variance. We have no ability to dictate what a university sets, so you do have to go to the university directly to find out what they ask for. I have a question here. Are the Kaplan and Princeton review books good for test prep? You'll find that we work with our test prep company of choice, which is McGraw-Hill, but we also make sure that other test prep companies have accurate information about the TOEFL IBT test, because we know that they are also creating books that future test takers will use. So we do make sure that the information they share is accurate in describing the test. Everyone has their own personal preferences, so certainly you'll find quite a few people who will say that they found those guidebooks helpful, and students who will find or say that they find some other guidebooks helpful. You just have to see which one works best for you. Okay. You've asked some very good questions, and I want to thank you for taking the time to do so. If, though, for any reason I have not addressed your concerns as thoroughly as you wish, or something else occurs to you and you have a question pop up in the ensuing days, please feel free to write to us at our email address, TOEFL@ets.org. Thank you for your time with me today, and I do wish you the best of luck on your TOEFL test.